Good morning. So I can't believe it. This is the last video of 2021. Can you believe that? So I'm covering the best and worst of 2021, and I'm going to start with the worst because I don't want to end with that, even though in the blog it's the other way around. And I'm going to sound like a broken record. I've written about so many of these things before, but my worst, a crime, and you'll see in the blog itself. I mean, there's some things that I've captured right here on my very street. So it's very, kind of personal to me, even though I know this is an issue around the whole country. Homelessness. And one of the things which again is something I've just spoken about many, many times, but it reminded me that when I came back from South America in March of 2020, I had written a post about it, and I went back to look at that today, and I've actually included some information because one of the things that really struck me about being in South America was that the whole fatherless situation, and I did research on it then, and it said that, so in 2020 that currently there were 1 in 7 people live in fatherless or live in shanty towns. By 2030, so a mere 8 years from now, they're saying that less than 1 in 4 people will be living in this kind of situation. You can see it happening. I mean, everywhere around places like Bozeman and Boise and Asheville. I mean, it's not just a big city problem. I think it's going to just fundamentally change so many things about this country because no one seems to be able to handle it. And as I've said before, I don't think it's in the US, it's not just, I mean, for some people it's about affordable housing, but for many others it's, they're mentally ill, they're addicted to drugs, all of these things. You put these people in an affordable apartment and they, it just wouldn't work. Anyway, so the homelessness, unruly behaviors, another one, all these, we saw it first on planes. This is still all the stuff that is the worst of 2021. And in malls, like in November and December of this year, there were, pretty much almost every mall around the country had hundreds of teens come out just basically to fight, sometimes to loot, but the fighting, and then they'd sometimes take their fight from one mall to another. It's insane. Cancel culture, which a lot of people are sort of saying is the new Inquisition, it's kind of crazy, but I'm so happy that my man Dave Chappelle is like fighting back and is not getting canceled, so that's good. And then finally it was like the fifth thing was that trips are getting canceled, which compared to all these worst is nothing much at all. But now when it comes to the best of 2021, it was getting vaxxed, which I know a lot of people, only 62% of Americans are fully vaxxed, so a lot of people just don't believe in it, but I do. And I might be silly for believing in it, but I do. And I'm really looking forward to this new vaccine that the US Army is developing. They've been working on it since 2020, and it's in sort of the final stages of being tested. And it will be a vaccine that covers all of these different COVID things as well as flu. So that's one thing. My friends, I can't believe it, my friendship circle, even during the pandemic, stayed really strong, and even though we had to always get together with much smaller groups, and I was even able to make a couple of new friends. Sierra, who used to live next door to me here, we became pals on the fire escape. She used to be out there working, and then we'd end up having glasses of wine together. So that was really great. And then Marilyn, who's a brand new friend of mine, I met her on the rooftop sculpture garden at the Met, and she came to the holiday party, so that was really great. But then what I realized in putting this together, and by the way, I want to say, like in the past, until about a month ago, I used to always do the video first. I'd have all my topics and I'd do the video and then write it. But one of the things I realized is that, and maybe other writers find this too, I'm sort of hard to consider myself a writer, but what I realized was that as I'm writing it, what I'm writing about almost takes on a life of its own. So it's better when I wait until I've written everything before I do the video. So what I've discovered this time was that how much of an ode, almost like a love letter to New York City, the blog became when I talked about what are the best things about the year. And then I went back and I thought to myself, well, I'm not from here, but I have, from the day I arrived in the States, which was in the 70s, early 70s, it felt like I'd landed in my spiritual home when I came to New York. And then I thought back when I was a kid. So when I was in Australia, I'm giving away my age because everyone knows my age anyway, but I was about 16 or 17. It was like in the mid 60s. And Rona Jaffe had put out this book called The Best of Everything. And I read it. And it was set in New York. And it was about, this is just sort of what I remember in my mind, was that it was these women who worked in, like, I don't know, an advertising agency, some kind of an office. And it was on Lexington Avenue. I do remember that. And then after work, they'd always go to bars with, like co-workers and stuff. And I just thought that was the just coolest thing imaginable. Because in this little hick town I lived in Australia, there were no bars. My parents, we never, I think in all my years in Australia, I think I went to a restaurant once with my parents. It was just like not something we did. It was like a really big deal when KFC came to my town. There was like a big parade with whatever. So I lived in this hick town. So this book by Rona Jaffe, The Best of Everything, it put it into my mind that I was going to come to New York. And I remember saying to my friend Kathy at the time, it's like, we have to do this. We have to go to Lexington Avenue. Anyway, and then there was also, Patty Duke had some sort of TV show, and I think she was like a teenager and she was in New York, and that also, I just thought New York was the cat's meow. And anyway, and I still feel this way, so even though New York's got problems galore, maybe more than our new mayor Eric Adams can even fix. I'm hopeful, but not overly optimistic. But anyway, so this is my love letter to New York City, to all the people, who live here, the restaurant people, my friends here. I just love this city, and I wanted to do really well. I think this past year, the city's really, I don't know, it's sort of like people came together in communities. I know we did in my neighborhood. And I don't think the government really did. They handed out all this money, but basically what really brought, at least in my neck of the woods, what brought the city out of the depths of this horrible pandemic were people being super creative, just going out there and bravely going where no one had gone before, and opening up new restaurants, opening up new stores, coming up with new ideas for how they were going to, keep their businesses going. So that's it. So I can't believe that it is the end of 2021 and we're still dealing with this virus. Anyway, so that's it. I love you all. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for reading. And I will see you all in 2022. Ciao.